allow for questions at the end. So first, let's talk about how it aligns with our strategic plan, as we do with all things that we are. Operational effectiveness is our strategic priority that we work within the Office of Security. And our aim is 18, which is to prioritize safety upgrades, including facilities, improving safety plans, and focusing on cybersecurity. And that very thing is, if you recall, in our last board meeting that I presented at, one of those upgrades will be our new lockdown procedure. So this is going to be in alignment with those aims. So just a quick overview of kind of how we look at school safety and security. Right? It's a practice that exists in an ever-changing landscape. I've been here for a number of years, and when I first got here, really the only thing that was in school safety and security was cameras and locks. It wasn't really a whole lot beyond that. That landscape has changed with technology drastically just in the last few years. And we continue at Wayne County Schools to look at all of these different types of technologies that come about, whether it's weapon detection, whether it's AI stuff, whether it's card access readers, more high-definition cameras. All of those things have now come into the horizon. They're going to be changing as technology continues to grow. You're going to see different and new technologies emerge. So I also talk about our toolbox all the time. If you've ever heard me talking about safety and security for the district, I'm always talking about things that are in our toolbox. So let's talk about some things that we keep in our toolbox. These are going to be physical things first that are in the toolbox. So those are things like cameras. There are things like door locks, door contacts, alarm systems, our weapon detection system, emergency notification systems. All of these are physical security components to go in the toolbox. Not everything that's in the toolbox, but these are several things that we do keep in the toolbox. And just in these things, in my time here, a lot of these things have changed. I expect a lot of them to continue to change. As we go to some of these trade shows and see the different types of school technologies that are coming about, not only for our district, but other districts are looking at the same things. So these are our physical pieces. So with physical security, you also have processes and partnerships. And that's our second part of our toolbox I'd like to talk about today. So what are those things? That's our emergency operation plan. That's what gives us all of our processes to utilize those physical security things that we have. Our reunification plans, that's the after something has happened, it's the recovery piece of emergency management. Staff supervision plans, again, another process, but that's something that's ongoing at schools on a daily basis. Our large event security plan, the partnership we have with our SROs and law enforcement. And I'd be remiss if I didn't always say thank you to our law enforcement partners that maybe listen to this. They're a vital piece of our toolbox. Our district security staff, which I also like to bring attention, we have a couple of our members in here today with me to help. Mr. McKenna, Mr. Canterbury, and our newest addition, Mr. Emery, are all part of our district security staff that work here at the district office. And community partners, any community organizations, whether they be faith-based or like our B-Smart groups or any of these other professional groups that bring security minds to our processes. So again, we have first our physical pieces of the toolbox, and then we have our processes part of the toolbox. All of that together is kind of what brings a comprehensive view to safety and security for our schools in the district. So some enhancements that we had last year that will continue to move forward this year. And these are things that everything up here we've heard and gone over before. The rate panic button, again, that's something that came through by the state. We use that all the time. We just, matter of fact, today did a lockdown drill a couple hours ago using the RAVE system. We did the mobile command vehicles. We took our field trip outside, if you remember, and looked at those. There's 3 of those that are moving around. We utilize those for emergency response. We've updated our bomb threat protocols. We've had our spectator event bags now running for a couple of years. That's been going very well. Our Verkada system, again, something that's been in place for a little while. Part of the security assessment was identifying having a comprehensive visitor management system that's district-wide, this network. And of course, our See Something anonymous reporting app, which I'm very excited to see, is utilized a lot. We get a lot of after-hours information on that, and I'm very happy to say that compared to our older tip line, where it was a phone call, we recognize that students who supply a lot of that information, they text more than they make phone calls. So this application has provided us a wealth of information that kids are more apt to use. So I just want to give you a little bit of data. This data first is on what we've done with RAVE so far. Remember, we started RAVE just last year, getting it off the ground in February, March time. In that time frame, we've had one actual police for assistance notification, we've had one medical assistance notification, and we've had 2 missing children notifications so far. And that's, again, we haven't even had it up and running in a year. Our goal, if you remember when we talked about RAVE in the past, was kind of this mid-year thing last year to get it up and running, and this is going to be our first full year where staff has been able to engage with the RAVE app, and we're looking forward to seeing how much more they start to get involved in. Lockdown drills we performed using RAVE. Again, we did one just a couple hours ago at an elementary school. RAVE is becoming more and more an integral part, and I think RAVE is really going to be one of those technologies that you're going to see growing throughout the country and the state for sure. A lot of districts are utilizing it in the state and throughout the country. But we're utilizing it right now for lockdown drills. That helps us get familiar with the system and start using some of its features. Now, right now, we've got 3,488 staff members have downloaded and installed the app. So just to refresh your memory, the RAVE app is not a mandatory thing, so we can't mandate people downloading apps onto their personal devices, but everyone has the ability to get the app if they want to. So far, 3,488 people have downloaded the full functioning app. However, the really good number is this 11,101. Those are staff members that get the notifications. So if you remember from our previous discussions, you can still, even if you don't download the app, you can update your information in employee self-service, which most of our employees have done, and that will allow you to get notifications. So when there is an activation, you will get notified that that is happening. And again, just giving you some reminders, this doesn't replace calling 911. This is just another tool in the toolbox that helps staff get information out and get information to them. And again, we've used this in a number of our lockdown drills, and the more and more lockdown drills we continue to use these in, I think staff, we've seen an uptick every time we've used the app at a lockdown drill, the increase in numbers of people that have downloaded the app or signed up for notifications. So roughly half of our staff so far have got it. And this is just a visual depiction of that same thing. This was back when we started 7/1 of 24, and you can see the numbers continue to grow. The line at the top is the notification piece, and this line is the number of people that have the app. So it's just a visual depiction of this number. So move on to our Verkada system data I'd like to share with you today. So again, we've had Verkada for a little while now. This is the last year, 24-25, 5,000 on average interactions with the system per school. So we had 3 confirmed sex offender matches so far. We have a little over 1 million total transactions in a year. So the system is constantly being used. We monitor it. We get alerts every time we have potential matches. The potential match number in the beginning was probably our biggest learning curve, but we've kind of been able to filter out that to get down to what we know when we have a confirmed sex offender coming into the building. But the staff is using it. These numbers reflect what we wanted to see is that they're being interacted with at all building levels. So just some more future things that we might be looking at down the road, or that we are going to be looking at down the road. The first one we talked about at I think 2 board meetings ago is the lockdown procedures. We're going to be upgrading those, moving away from that code red, code yellow stuff and going into the standard response protocol. That we hope to launch in the 26-27 school year. So right now we're in that phase of making sure that we inform community, we inform students, we inform staff, we get everyone on board, and then 26-27 we'll look to launch the new standard response protocol. We're going to be upgrading our reunification processes. We're trying to make that more of a standardized. That was part of the NOI that was approved by the board. We're going to be using the I Love You Guys standard response reunification procedures as well as their lockdown procedures. We're going to be looking at some physical security infrastructure improvements. Those are those things that constantly technology is changing that we're trying to keep abreast of. There's just a lot of things that's in that. We'll probably talk a little bit about that in closed session as well. And down the road, we need to go ahead and get our reassessment done of our district. We did that assessment, as you remember, the board brought the School Safety Advocacy Council in. We did a comprehensive 100% look at every school, every district office building. We've got a baseline to work from, and now it's time to bring them back, hopefully get another assessment and find where we have grown. And we've had a number of new schools that have opened in that time that need to be assessed for the first time as well. So we're looking to get that assessment done as soon as we can as well. So I want to talk about just one, we're just going to pull really just one thing out of the toolbox and talk a little bit more about that today, and that's our security operations event plan. And again, this is just one of those things that we're pulling out of the toolbox to show you today. The number one thing I want you to know about is it's a collaborative event plan. So let's think a large event, whether it be a football game, a jamboree, a prom, it could be anything that brings a large number of people to the building. We will have one of our security administrators, so it could be Mr. McKenna, for example, would sit down with that principal, could sit down also with the athletic director if it's an athletic event, would sit down with the SRO as well, and any other relevant stakeholders at the school to help put this plan together. So again, it's not just one person, security, saying this is what you need to do. It's I want you to take away from this today that it's a collaborative thing, because we need to know exactly what their needs are and what we expect them to do. It's going to clearly define the roles and responsibilities of the people that are working that event. So whether it's the admin staff, it's volunteers, it's SROs, it's off-duty officers that have been hired, it could be Allied Universal Security private contractors that are hired, all of those people that could be a part of this plan, we need to define the roles and responsibilities of what they're to do at this event, whichever event that they're working. It's going to better outline what the law enforcement interactions are. We want to make sure that when we're using this plan, if you're a staff member, your job is going to look vastly different than what a law enforcement person is doing. We don't want staff being involved in things that the police should be involved in, and vice versa. We don't need law enforcement being involved in things that staff need to do. Provides guidelines for schools on how they can create a security plan. All principals aren't the most security-minded folks out there. This helps them get to that level. All they do is give us a call. We walk them through everything. We take the ball across the line for them, so they don't have to become a security expert. That's what we're here for. So we try to make sure they have that lens on their event. They know their football game. They may know their prom, or they may know their play that might be happening at the school, and they know those pieces, but this helps them bring a different lens, and that's what our team brings to them. And scalable and flexible at different size of events. So you can use this plan for a book fair that only has 25 people coming, if you'd like to. And you can scale it all the way down to something that small. Or if it's a large, something that you're expecting 4 or 5, 2,000 people to come to your campus, you obviously can use the same template, but you're just scaling it up to handle that larger influx of people. So I think your board materials, I'm not going to go over all of this, but I just made up yesterday, or a couple of days ago, an event plan. This is just the template. Obviously what's in there was completely made up. The event was made up. The schools are made up. There's nothing in there that's going to tell anybody anything about what we're doing out of school, other than these are just the things that we outline that we look at. So when we do these, going back to this framework of how it works, everyone's at the table at the same time making this plan. And once they're in agreement what the plan needs to look like, this document puts not everyone on the same page, but at most events, we bring copies of these. So like in our command vehicle, there could be several copies of it. And if everyone at this table was working the event with me, and I was the event incident commander, I can then hand out this plan to everyone so everyone knows where they need to go, what their responsibilities are, what they need to be doing. I think it's a great tool that we've had for a number of years. It's morphed, it's changed, because as I mentioned in the beginning, when things change, you come back and take a fresh look at this. This document is a living, breathing thing. We may change it more. There's some components obviously in here that we took out for the presentation today since it's an open session. So this is not all of the template. This is just a portion that we'd like to show you today so that you would know that we have it. And with that, I'll be happy to entertain any questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Scott. So board members, you've heard the presentation, and again, we'll get some additional information when we move into closed session. But for right now, questions about what we've heard so far. I'll start with Mr. Hershey, and then I'll go around the table.
When you put up the staff numbers, are those out of staff in school or the entire number of staff?
Everyone. It's everyone, the whole district.
Do we have a breakdown of, not that I don't care about people in central services in this building, but I think the public is thinking more about schools, and so if it's possible to kind of get a breakdown of.
We can definitely do that to you.
That'd be great. The only other question I have for open would be, and I think it's relevant for the communities to hear, I assume we're reviewing events that maybe have had reoccurring issues or, and are we, as you do the work, do you examine how we should make changes to some of those events if they are annually causing problems?
Yes, sir. So one of the things I would offer to your point is, as I mentioned, the event plan, it's changed. The version you see now is not what it originally started out to be. It was much smaller, but it's grown because as things happen, you have to constantly evaluate what you've done. That's part of, sometimes when we do an after-action review, that teaches us lessons learned, because the point of the after-action review is to test your processes. If you find a hole through the AAR in your process, you make a change. Some of the things that have been incorporated in this, and I expect that in a year, 2 years, the document I just showed you is probably going to look vastly different, because there's things that we're going to learn that we're going to say, hey, this has changed, we need to do this instead, or this has changed, and this may need to grow and do something different. So the answer to your question in the long term is yes, we look at what's happened, events that have happened. If there's some commonalities in them, then maybe we need to look at our plan and find out where did that weakness come from and change something to make it stronger.
Well, I was thinking more if we have book fairs at night that are causing lots of problems, maybe we don't have them as late at night as they are.
That could be a recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hershey. Ms. Gordon?
I have two questions. My first question is, how far in advance are the event operation plans, like, planned? And scheduled?
Great question. Yep, great question. So I think it's a little bit dependent on the size and type of event. So if it's a huge something, whatever that could be, that let's say you're expecting 2,000 or 3,000 people to come to your school for that event, we're not doing that 24 hours in advance. That's probably, and I'll look at Mr. McKenna, the last one that we did was a large one. You started that, what, 10 days out? 10 days out.
And then my second question is about the community partnerships that you mentioned on slide 7. Can you say more about the community partnerships? And I guess my overall feel around the community partnerships question is, we know that these are neighborhood schools, and there are unique challenges, there are unique assets that these neighborhood schools have. So are we really tapping into each community organization's, ability to partner with us to make sure that we are meeting the unique needs of that community?
Yeah, I think that when we do the sit-down with a principal, and let's say they have I'm just trying to think of a church that may have some fathers that would like to come out and help and volunteer or what, that's where we could probably pull them. If the principal says, well, Mr. Scott, and I'm working with the principal to do that plan, they say, I've got 10 fathers from this church that would like to come out and help volunteer at some level. Oh, okay, well, maybe we could use them for just eyes and ears observation of crowd. Here's on our operations plan where you could put those people to kind of just watch. We could even give them a radio, and they could just call for the help that's needed, but we can give them eyes, and it may be, again, I want to be as general as I can with it, a place where we know behind the bleachers is dark, and we think that that's where things have been traditionally happening. And maybe we have one of those community fathers just staying at the bottom of the bleachers, is just looking, and if they see something, they can call someone. So the principals know those community partnerships because they typically have them, and then when we sit down with me, they say, hey, I've got this resource, Mr. Scott, what's the security way that you could use that? Oh, okay, well, this is what we can do with that. So it's an encouragement thing. I really hope that a lot of principals really tap into that more if they can, to bring that resource to the table for us so we can help utilize that to make our events more safe.
Mrs. Gordon, also the community mapping initiative is one of those ways that organizations can share the information with schools. We want to remind people that that mapping initiative really is for the school district, so we can know what those resources are. But I understand your question. I know that what we've always got to do is to continue to reach out to those organizations and community partners that want to help out. I think the biggest thing that we've shared the last couple of years is that a school can have so many resources that come to them, and it's hard to kind of focus that. But that's part of what the mapping initiative helps us with. But we certainly will continue that work of making sure we make those connections with partnerships because it is specific to communities and schools.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Caulfield?
Thank you. I just wanted to ask, and it kind of, I guess, stems off of what Ms. Gordon had also said, how can we tell families that are listening how they can get involved? I know each school might have a different dynamic. They might have, different landscape. But how do we communicate with our families to let them know, hey, we really need your help. Can you sign on, and here's how you do it?
I might ask Ms. Newton.
The best point of contact is the school principal, and each school principal has different ways that they do that. I know at my child's school, it's the PTA, and they ask the PTA to get involved in certain ways. I think directing it in that method is probably the most useful because our teams communicate directly with the school administration on working through these types of issues.
But do we reach out to families to say, hey, here's the opportunity to present that to them? Or you're just saying that the parents could call in?
We don't. We can look at that, of what we can communicate to families. There's lots of ways families can get involved, and we communicate many of those. As it relates to security in general, keep your guns locked. Know about see something, say something. If you hear about something, share that information with the school. Those are the larger messages that we really want to make sure that families understand how we can work together to keep safe environments in our schools. But we can certainly look at that one aspect of it.
Right.
And so, Ms. Caulfield,
I think I
I'll
was
add to
thinking
that.
more events than everyday school.
Absolutely. And so one of those things is just encouraging parents to reach out and saying that they are available to help out with events. But what I also want to remind parents is that specific activities will require that they enroll in our volunteer program. And so you do have to go through that screening to be a volunteer that's clear to do certain things at the school. And so one of those examples would be if we've got parents or community folk that would want to be at a school and help students transition, just being eyes on the ground. We think that's great. It's good to have parents. I want to say it was a program that I was familiar with. It was something that, with dads who were
Dads on duty.
had something with dog in it,
Oh.
but it's multiple programs like that. I don't want to say Mad Dog because I knew that wasn't it. But this was a program that specifically got dads into the school to help out with those kinds of things. And so, but ultimately, anybody who's interested, we do want them to go to the volunteer screening process, and then that clears that first hurdle, and there's tons that they can do after that.
Okay. I was just wondering if there was something that we can do, like, we had the see something, say something, we expressed that out, and for the angel funds, we were able to get a lot of people sign up and say, oh, actually, I can help and do that. They just didn't think of it on their own.
Yeah, that's a great idea. We'll take that opportunity and run with it.
All right, can we move on? Dr. Hay?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. My comments, questions are kind of in the same line in terms of, getting the community involved. I think it's a great idea. But I also was thinking about, in terms of the, because they are not in the know of kind of how things are done, the time it takes to onboard people from the community to a task that we need to have them do. That's a process that we need to consider. Plus, what are there confidential nature of some of these things that we need to be mindful of as well, so that we get the help of the community, but we don't want our specific plans to be out there in the community as well.
Yes, sir.
So that's something that I do have, I want to be mindful of. And then, one of the things that I've heard in the community in terms of criticism, whether we are proactive enough, are we proactive versus reactive? When we're thinking about, you mentioned about the weapon detection systems, I'm trying to think of in my mind whether that is a proactive or a reactive measure. And then, I also thought about, the contrast between our system versus other school systems in terms of the feasibility or implementation of a system, of a weapon detection system, and what obstacles there would be, you know, with that in our specific case. So I don't expect you to have an answer, but just things that
Hopefully
I'm
you'll be
thinking about.
pleasantly surprised when we get in closed session.
So let me respond to that, Dr. Ng, and I think that's an excellent question. I get asked all the time, why are we reactive? And what I share with people is that we are absolutely not reactive. If events happen and then we're questioned or asked about those, then we respond accordingly based on what the question is and what we can actually reveal. So it's not that we're reactionary. We are constantly reviewing all of the actions that we have. We use that to determine what kind of changes we need to make. But the toughest thing about it all is that most of those things we're just not at liberty to share with the public, and so it appears that way. When we think about weapons detection systems, that is both proactive and reactive. I mean, the district can proactively say, we want to take steps to determine what is the best way to deploy this in our district, what is going to be the benefit, and what is the cost, and how do we leverage all of it. So that is a proactive approach. But for some, it could be reactive. We've had so many events, now we've got to try and put something in place. So it really is a combination of those things. But you know, the only thing that we will do is continue what we know is reviewing our processes and refining and doing all of those things to make the process better. But as we know, it's just something that we can't always share. But we do want our community to know that this is something that absolutely has not fallen on deaf ears, and outside of teaching and learning, that school's number one thing is about how do we make sure kids are safe. So, great question. I appreciate you asking that. Thank you.
Simmons, did you have any? Thank you. All right. Well, Mr. Scott, a couple things. One thing that we've seen in a number of incidents is that oftentimes the threat to children on campus comes from a source off campus. And we're limited in what we can do to the grounds of the school. Can you tell us about any conversations you've had with local law enforcement, about any collaboration with how we keep the neighborhoods around the school safe?
So, looking at the large event plan, for example, one of the things I think that has been morphing with that over time is it's been concentrated to that event, and we know that parking lots, the perimeter to your point, is where we really need to expand that security profile. We've started to do that to where if you go to some of the games now, you're probably going to see some of that change. The law enforcement partnerships we have, they have eyes and ears in the neighborhoods, and if there's something brewing, they absolutely let us know. We know we get a lot of intel. It's not just from what happens on our property. One of the, I think the beauties of having such a good partnership with SROs is they coach, they work in the community, a lot of them live in the community, and the officers that work in those beat areas instantly talk to those SROs who then feed us information. So we've got, I feel like, a pretty good lifeline to neighborhood issues that could come onto our campus, but that's not every incident. That's not every incident. But I feel like there's at least a pipeline that information can get to us if we need it.
Thank you. And then I want to follow up on something Ms. Gordon had asked about, and Ms. Caulfield as well. When we talk about community partners and organizations that might have volunteers, we've sort of talked about them in the context of extracurricular activities, but have we given any thought to the idea of just having more, again, carefully screened, but volunteers inside the school that can provide more eyes and ears, more mentorship, more assistance, if there are groups that have individuals willing to do this. Again, I think it puts more adults in the building, and it maybe even takes some of those duties off of our teachers. Has that ever been explored, or maybe at another meeting you could give us any pros and cons of an approach like that?
You want me to take that one? So, elementary schools a lot of times have parents in the buildings that volunteer that help a lot of times. And sometimes I see them doing like hall duty. They'll be staying there ushering kids to the halls. I would prefer to, let me check and find out what other schools in the middle and high school specifically, if they do those types of things. Usually when I see it, it's at the elementary level. But it's a great question. It's a great idea to put more eyes and ears. The observe and report thing, typically, the more adults are in the building, the less things happen. So, yeah, great question. I think, give me one more meeting to get to you back, and I'll definitely bring it back to you.
All right.
So, Mr. Chair, and I'll add to that we absolutely need to make those opportunities available and reach out to those organizations. And so, and it's called Watchdogs. My mind was going to come back to me, and it's a program called Dads of Great Students. And so we have multiple programs like that exist. Many have a national platform. And so it is about just sharing that information and saying that if these organizations don't exist, then we would love to create those opportunities here. And then that is the case where parents become a part of those organizations and make them as a resource for the school. And so that's just one of the things we have an opportunity to do. And while we may be a large district, to me, that's just more opportunity to be able to do it. But great point.
Fantastic. All right. Do we have any more questions about the presentation? All right. If not, well, then what I'd like to do at this time, Mr. Hershey?
Make a motion to go into closed to formulate plans relating to the prevention of school violence through the development of emergency plans under GS 143-318.11A8.
Thank you, Mr. Hershey. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
A couple seconds. I'll take Ms. Gordon's. All in favor of moving to closed session at this time, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll give a few minutes for the room to clear, and then we'll resume again in closed session.